Recent news regarding Spider-Man No Way Home has been pounced on by every available source across the vast reaches of the internet, and one of the most intriguing claims is the idea that despite popular belief, there will not in fact be a Sinister Six team-up throughout the course of the movie, despite villains from no less than 3 different Spider-Man franchises being eligible inclusions in this movie. There have only been 5 seemingly confirmed members, and many have begun to believe that this team will actually consist of just the 5 villains without a 6th member. This claim, however, is not sitting right with many longtime Spider-Man fans, as sitting this close to finally seeing a live-action Sinister Six debut without going all the way might prove to be a missed opportunity. Therefore, we have a few ideas as to who the hidden member of the Sinister Six might be, under the assumption that Marvel decides to add a 6th member, as well as reasonable explanations as to why these particular villains might complete the roster. Let's delve into a few possibilities of the hidden 6th member. The first member is Venom, and thanks to Let There Be Carnage, we now have confirmation that Venom will not only be appearing in No Way Home, but that he is currently in the MCU as of now. More so, he is not included in the long-running list of antagonists, which currently includes Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Sandman, Electro, and the Lizard, with no Venom to speak of. Given that Eddie Brock is already in the MCU, it seems apparent that he will have a role to play in the upcoming No Way Home project, and completing the Sinister Six just might be that role. Not only this, but Venom seemed to recognize Spider-Man, and many have theorized that the symbiote recognizes Spider-Man from either the Venomverse or from elsewhere in the multiverse. This stems from a line and is supported by a line in Let There Be Carnage that hints that symbiotes are able to communicate with each other and feed one another information through the barriers of the multiverse itself, meaning that perhaps the symbiote from the Raimi universe informed the symbiote from Sony's Venom universe of the Webhead's betrayal, for example, by Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. As of now, it is still speculative as to how Venom knows Spider-Man, but it seems apparent that he does in some way. Since Venom is in the MCU as of now, any reason that he might have to hunt down the Wallcrawler would give him ample opportunity to join the team in search of whatever vengeance he may be seeking. The second possibility that we'll be discussing is Mac Gargan, aka the Scorpion, and specifically the version introduced into the MCU in Spider-Man Homecoming. Despite the film taking place largely in the mainline MCU, from everything we can tell, there are currently no villains from Tom Holland's roster of antagonists in play. All the confirmed villains come from somewhere in the multiverse, and it stands to reason that if Tom Holland's Spider-Man is going to face an antagonist from his home universe, Mac Gargan is one of the premier candidates. He has a tangible vendetta and bloodlust that was set up in Spider-Man Homecoming, as well as a reasonable opening to have escaped prison in the time since the snap and the blip took place, sending the world into chaos and presenting the necessary circumstances for him to escape his incarceration. This would allow us to see Scorpion in full gear, while already using an established MCU character that requires minimal backstory or explanation regarding his bloodlust for Spider-Man. The third character we will be covering also comes from the MCU, at least as far as we can tell. We are of course talking about Dmitry Smerdikov, the Chameleon. And while he hasn't been outright confirmed, many point to the bus driver in Far From Home as a possible instance of the Chameleon hiding in plain sight, as the driver is named Dmitry in the credits. If this is in fact Dmitry Smerdikov, then he could be watching Spider-Man from afar in order to suit his own agenda, whatever that may be revealed to be. The Chameleon is largely a character that can exist in the shadows, keeping to himself and serving a more elusive objective as either a side character or a potential setup as a future antagonist. This would allow the Sinister Six to debut a brand new villain not yet seen on screen, while relegating him to a minimalistic role that would prohibit him from overshadowing the other main members of the Sinister Six. This would add a new face to the MCU and potentially even leave him in a position where he could serve as a long-term antagonist for Tom Holland's Spider-Man throughout the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, possibly alongside the likes of Scorpion or Kraven, as the MCU builds their own Sinister Six should Marvel Studios choose to take this route. The final candidate that we'll be discussing, and my personal pick, is none other than Mysterio. Recently, we did a full video breakdown on how Mysterio could still feasibly be alive and well without breaking the continuity of Far From Home. And while we will not be delving too deeply into the details of how he survived, seeing as that was covered in our prior video, we will be covering why exactly he might make sense as the 6th member of the villainous team. For a full breakdown on how Mysterio may have survived, see our video on why Mysterio Mysterio is the 6th member of the Sinister Six, which we understand is ironic given the content of this video. Mysterio is perhaps Tom Holland's most formidable antagonist, and as we mentioned before, the film has yet to offer an MCU-centric antagonist to oppose our titular Spider-Man. He was not only able to trick Peter into surrendering the remainder of Tony Stark's legacy and crippling his psyche, but he is also responsible for the legal and social predicament that Peter is in right now. He is currently facing legal ramifications for being Spider-Man, as well as dire personal consequences that are directly resulting in his loved ones being directly targeted. We see a shot of Happy Hogan being held at gunpoint in the trailer, as well as multiple shots of Peter's loved ones in various interrogation rooms. Finding out that Mysterio is not only alive, but relishing in Peter's turmoil could give the audience an emotional gut punch that grounds this movie around the story of the MCU's Peter Parker. Despite the multiverse breaking open, this is still a story about Tom Holland's Peter Parker and his current situation within the MCU, and the story will be revolving around him and his problems. Therefore, giving him an emotional connection to one of the most prominent members of the team could allow the MCU to keep their story centric around Tom Holland without overshadowing him by the other Spider-Men present. It's even possible that Mysterio is the one pulling the strings from behind the scenes, pulling all of the premier villains together in order to torment the trio of wall crawlers to enact his vengeance. But anyway, my friends, do you think that there is a secret 6th member of the Sinister team? Or do you think No Way Home will take the route of the Sinister 5? If you do believe there is a hidden 6th member, who do you think that this 6th member is? And is it someone that we mentioned in this video, or an individual that we missed out on entirely? As always, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching the channel. Hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and I hope you have a great day.